Good morning, hello, and God bless you. This is Ellen Mongan and Deacon Dr. Pat Mongan, or Pat Mongan MD. He's a family practice doc, and we are the parents of 8 children. And we're going to share a little bit about pro-life and the joy of children. Some people think they're a burden, but we think they're a blessing. So, Pat, what do you want to say about pro-life?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of every human being is a potential blessing, as we know, because we're in a fallen world and we all have sin. That sometimes we're better at being an image and likeness of God, because in Genesis, God says that we are made in the image and likeness of Him,
And he also
of the
says,
Trinity.
but there, it also says reproduce and multiply. We took that
Yes, He
literally.
did.
We
Yes.
we believe in being open to life and living our life fully alive.
And so the fact that each and every human being is made in the image and likeness of God, we need to look for the best in them. And to me, pro-life is a daily activity in terms of how we relate to people and how we care about people. And because we care and we understand that each and every one of us really belongs to God and are God's gift in terms of their life, that we need to treat them as if they were to the best of our ability. Obviously, some people make that very, very difficult.
Look at me.
But I once was teaching a class on the faith, and I said to people, "How many people believe that Hitler could be in heaven? Is that possible? Are the terrorists who attacked our country, is that possible?" It is possible because they were serious sinners, but God takes into consideration um, all the aspects that are affecting their life, because some of us are so wounded that it's hard for us to be open to what God wants for us. But we need to try to bring everybody to Jesus and to God. That's really what a big part of being pro-life is, to want everybody to be saved, want everybody to be in heaven. God's the only one who decides that. We can be His instruments to bring them to heaven, to know Jesus. And so being pro-life is something we should live with every person from beginning of life to the end of life. And we've had experience with beginning life and end of life. So
Yeah, what I was going to say is that, yeah, I think he's talking about living your life fully alive. So people meet you and they go, what does she have? We're supposed to look for the hidden treasure in each person you meet. Like, what's their hidden, maybe God has a word for me from them, or a lesson, or I can learn from them. But also with us, they might see us, and if we're like Miss Grumpy, good deeder, then we aren't doing what God said to do. We represent ourselves with the fruits of the Spirit and live our life fully alive. I remember when I was pregnant with one of the kids, and it was, I don't know, maybe my fourth or fifth, and I was dressing frumpy because I was all about the whole thing that might be vanity and maybe I should be dressed down. And some ladies in the Christian community that I love dearly, they said to me, "You make it being pregnant seem so horrible. No one's going to want babies." And I thought to myself, I was so 9 months nauseated, every baby, and 8 babies. You do the math, but Pat's a better mathematician. But I decided to choose to put on accessorize with virtue, choose joy, choose patience, and that's how I learned to walk in the Spirit in a deeper way than just going like, "Here I am, I'm sick, and let me have a bucket I can throw in." So I just think there are challenges when you're open to life. Like Pat and I were blessed to have a baby 9 months after we got married, because we went on the honeymoon and I was anorexic. So I thought, I won't have any children. I'm good with that. I never based that. I thought, I'm fine. But I did get pregnant on the honeymoon. We call it our souvenir. People think we brought him home with us. We did. He was on board, and we kept as soon as the sperm and the egg connect,
conception.
that we have a baby, and that's not like it's not like a massive tissue, right? Explain that, John. Sure, with that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's what some people they want to excuse the killing of babies, which this may seem harsh, but this is a reality. Is killing an unborn child is premeditated murder, because you're killing a human being, and that's how we all started. Our parents, our children, our spouses, every person we knew, that's how they began. So to say it's just a lump of tissue, no, it's a human being who is growing and developing. Just like babies are not adults, they're growing and developing. But as soon as conception occurs and implantation, then we are a growing human being inside the womb.
And since I didn't know much about being pregnant or having babies, I had a baby that we didn't even know. We thought it was car sick because we went on a month-long honeymoon to the West. So I like, I'm car sick. I'm good. I'll just pass.
You do get car sick too. But
So, no, we really do want to share a little bit about how babies are a blessing and not a burden because it takes some time. We watch our children now. We have 8 children and we have 16 grandchildren. And each time we watch a new mother and father embrace a new baby, we are blessed again. Our children are a blessing from the Lord. So on us, I was inexperienced, and after I had that first baby, God gave me Tyler, who was a very compliant child and an entertainer and gentle spirited. And I just thought, man, this is my thing. I didn't think I was going to like it when they stuff your blouse and you kind of look. You have to clean diaper. There's a lot to it, more than you could meet the eye, right? But then as you embrace it, each one that came, like Pat said, with a different gift, a different treasure, a different personality. And we embraced each one and we learned from all of them.
Right.
So we're going to say about our children. One by one, we kept having babies. And then one day, on our last baby,
Zachary, who was born with trisomy 18, which is typically those babies don't make it to birth. They die in utero. Some do, and usually it's the girls. But it's he had severe deformities and only lived 2.5 hours. And there wasn't much that really could be done for him. Some babies can be treated and live a few months. There's rare cases that some babies have even been able to live years. But and his life was very short. But the amazing thing and the miracle to me is the fact that he was a blessing to so many people, to a particular man who was there who had
lost his purse,
had not been able to hold his baby, and he was able to hold Zachary, and that was a healing for him. And we all, as Zachary was dying, we all sang and held him. He got to be passed around and held by our family and friends, and then at the funeral, which I think is a great pro-life statement, is that there were hundreds of people there at his funeral service.
And I want to share one thing about what it was. It was very sad. We're not lightening it. We were open to children, and even though it wasn't easy for us to have a large family, so we may touch on that. But when Zachary came, I went to get his. I mean, he was still a blessing, and we sang and we enjoyed him. And it was for a new mother. It's a hard thing, but I do want to say this. I used to pray every day in my prayer time. Of course, Zachary was on board, Zachary, Luke, John, and I would sing. And then when he was born, my prayer partner says, you have to go see him, because, of course, they whisked him away. He went to the ER. And so I had to clothe myself and walk down to where the baby was in a little ICU. And I said, Zachary, and he turned his head. And I knew that they hear your voice in utero. They hear your voice. He knew I was his mother. And it's a moment in time to capture. But I don't think people understand, Patrick, maybe you could explain more, that this is a life. And that the mother longs for a baby and sets in the nursery and gets it all ready. And they're longing for this child. But some people are not in that same boat. But I remember going to get the death certificate. For some reason, I went alone, maybe with one of the children, probably Sean. And when I got there, she said to me, well, it's a good thing he lived 2.5 hours. That made him a live birth, and you can take that as a tax write-off. I said, whoa. I'm so sad, because, see, that was I started to cry, of course. Sure. I said, that's my baby, and I really would rather have had the baby than the money. So mothers, I'm a mother's heart. It didn't start out that way.
Mm-hmm.
I grew it inside me. And Pat was a great dad. He still is, and I'm growing out bangs, guys. And so he still is. And we have to, another thing, motherhood and fatherhood. You embrace the blessing of the baby, not a burden, and it's a lifelong job, right?
And,
It's a
and
lifelong
that's why
growth.
Pope St. John Paul talked about us having a culture of death, where you don't really appreciate life from the beginning or end. That we want to do things like promote suicide or physician-assisted suicide or euthanasia. Um, in want to promote abortion, and all those are anti-life things, and that's why he called it a culture of death, which crept in when we started promoting birth control. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but that's our ideas have consequences. And so if you believe that, oh, life isn't really that important a part of marriage, then it can lead to a weakening of the marriage, a weakening of the family, a weakening of being, pro-life and really appreciating life in children. And these are all things that have steadily gotten worse, which were predicted by Pope Paul VI, who wrote Humanae Vitae, which is human life. People think he wrote just about contraception, but it was about promoting life. And that so contraception, just like it sounds, against life, against conception. And so with that attitude helped bring in much stronger, and I think a rapid decline in terms of a culture that was more pro-life in the past.
And this being it's the lost month, right? It's also pro-life, which we're concentrating pro-life this month. And Pat and I will speak at your church if you want us to come out, because we can speak on this issue or on the parenting or marriage issues. Because when you walked a mile in the path, a lot more than when you just start out. And the joy of watching our children become competent parents and embrace life and walk through it gives us great joy. All in all, it is like we're pro-life, right. We live life, and we teach others the joy of not saying, no, this isn't a good month to have a baby, but being open to life and saying, you don't know what that next baby's going to be, right? You don't know what that's going to bring to your family.
It might be Beethoven or,
I read a great book. It's not even a Catholic book, but it's a quiverful, and it talked just about that very subject, how their 13th baby or their 12th baby was like some genius in this world that I have to glean from. There is no junk. God never gives junk. Our Zachary was as much a great soul to bring life to Christ as any other baby. I mean, just a witness of us going through it together, and that people knew us. So.
And we count on Zachary to pray for us and intercede for us up there in heaven. In the other aspect of being pro-life is care at the end of life. And we cared for my father in our home. Ellen was the one who did most of the care for a couple of months.
Very short.
He was dying from lung cancer, but we did all we could to take care of him.
That's right.
And we never wanted to do anything that would hasten his death, because we know he was a child of God and he was precious to us. And it's a challenge, yes. When we say that, we understand that can be very difficult and challenging, because especially when you see a loved one who's suffering. But we worked very hard to minimize his suffering and to care for him, and
that helped your doctor.
And it was a blessing
because you knew what to do
for us, right? And then we cared for Ellen's mom in our home, who we took care of her as best we could, and she survived infections and problems and lived to be 97.
And she enjoyed life when she was here. She did
enjoy
the kids and the grandkids. And I wear this bracelet. It's an old-fashioned bracelet, because when I wear it, I pray for her and remember that we're in the room that she had. It's now my office, because I feel close to her in the room that she had care for in this room. She walked and talked and was witty and New York wise the whole time,
right,
until she said goodbye, which she didn't even say goodbye. She was fine, then she was gone. There's a joy in life no matter what. There's a joy in life no matter what.
Yeah.
You want to close this off?
No.
Okay.
So that pro-life, what does it mean? Every person belongs to God. Every person should be cherished. Every person should be brought to God, to Jesus. And we should all be caring for each and every person we meet in our lives. That's truly pro-life. God bless you.
This is Deacon and Dear saying goodbye.